Good morning, good Chodesh, a new month of Sivan, the month of receiving the Torah, the month, the Shabbos, we complete the 6 chapters of Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers, which the Rebbe says about it. The custom is to learn it during this time to bring about a healing that doesn't require you to first suffer, God forbid, and then be healed. It's called healing from the outset. Welcome. So I'm learning a mimer with you on this conclusion of the Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers, that speaks about all that is called in my name for my glory, I have created it, I have formed it, I've even made it. Af, the Pei Aleph. My father's going into his 80th year, please God. So he says, chapter 81 rather, in Tillim. It's the Af, the Rebbe says, would be translated to plaos arenu. Instead of wrath, Af, there'll be miracles. And in the merit of the righteous people, we're destined to be redeemed with miracles. The question is, at first we learn from this verse, Kol Nikra B'Shvi, everyone who's called by my name will not remain in exile. And he brings a long verse in Isaiah that says, from the east I will bring them, I will bring you, I will bring your descendants, and from the west I will gather them. I will say to the north, give the Jewish people that are dispersed there. V'leteman al tikali. Don't withhold sending back the Jewish people from Taman, from the south. Hevi banai merachik. Bring my children from afar. Ubnaisai miktsei haaretz. My daughters from the extremities of the earth. Hainu shekol bnei Yisrael yikabsam, the Rebbe says. Every single Jew will be gathered together by Hashem. Don't fear, because with you I am, says God. That's going to be through Mashiach Tzidkenu. You're going to have a leader that's so inspiring that, Lubavitchers believe that we've already seen such a leader. And we're just sort of waiting for some kind of incredible finale. V'al zeh mamshich b'kasu kol hanikra b'shmi. The Targum, the translation of this, interprets the verse. Often the translation is overtly interpreting the verses. Hainu Shabia Sagul Bakarav Mamashu. The upcoming redemption is Bedil is Avahaschain Tzadikaya, in order to recognize the merit of the righteous, this love that it evokes in Hashem. Shmi Alehain, who upon whom my name is called. So God's name is called by the righteous. They sort of represent Hashem in the world. Shezeu kol hanikra b'shmi. That's what the meaning is of all that are called in my name. In this verse that we started with from Isaiah, which is actually 43:7. So look that up. So we have two different interpretations. One that says it's about the righteous, and another that says it's for every single person, and no one's going to remain in exile. Umamshich likfeidi brasi v'likre brisehain eskanitz galushain af avedas lahain nisin. And it goes on to interpret in the Targum, the Aramaic translation of this verse. It goes, for my glory I have created it, v'likre brisehain, and to call my covenant Iskanis Galusain. There's a rectification of the exile, Af Avidas Lahain Nisin, and it uses the word Af again, the Pei Aleph, or the wrath, but it means I will even. Af asisiv in this verse, I will even do it. Af avdis lahainisin, the Targum says, I will even do miracles for them. B'tzarik lahavin, says the Rebbe, my shaykhos to be as gula bedin avas chayin tzedikaya, shagula ba b'schus hatzedikim. What's the connection between this Targum seems to connect the two things that contradict each other. What is the connection between the is it for everyone or is it for the righteous? That whose God's name is called upon is upon them. Okay, so then we get into very incredible chassidus. I learned a little bit of it with you yesterday. I think I have to correct it slightly, at least. The avos are also to do with love, but it's ava mesuteres, the bequeathed love that every Jew inherits, which is hidden within them. The imahais represent bringing that out into the conscious faculties, to experience it. That's the mothers. It goes through the three levels. But one's an inheritance, that's the avos, the fathers, and one's about revealing it, and that's the birth of Mashiach. We said it comes from Bina, which is mother, and it's revealed in Malchus, which is like Biti, my daughter. But we say the merit will come in the merit of the forefathers, Balila Avaskan Tzedikaya, which refers to the righteous, meaning the merit of the fathers is in that their descendants take on the precious gift that they were given, which was it's called Ava Mesutaris, the inherent love in the heart of every soul of a Jew. So to pay attention to that and give that primacy in your life, that is what it means, the merit of the fathers. That's what they lived for. That's what they give to everyone. Okay, so that's just a review a bit, that the verse that says from the top of the mountains I see him, and from the hilltops I behold him. You merit the redemption of the Jewish people because it's referring to the avos. So when you emulate the avos with a program of pursuing dveikus with Hashem, that defines you as being recognized as the avos were. True, we are a mitzias bifnei atzmai. We learned yesterday. We are not like the avos who were complete and total chariot to Hashem. Their every movement was inspired, and we have to strive towards that. But it happens to be inherent, and it happens to be defining of who you are. So I want to go through this mimer, maybe one more paragraph or chapter, and then we'll continue tomorrow, because I discovered the Rambam on Tchias Amazing last night, and it kept me up. Let's just say, Marty, welcome. It was interesting to read. I fell asleep too early, woke up, so I noticed that the Rebbe quoted this, the 6th chapter, and I think onward, in Rambam's treatise on the resurrection of the dead, which is incredible, because he explains that although he's very down to earth and wants to interpret everything according to a very literal, natural course of events, sometimes the verses insist that it's a miracle, and that's the only way to interpret it. So he says in that case, when people try to fudge it to accommodate their own understanding, they're doing tremendous harm to the faith of Judaism. And it's necessary for Judaism to understand that there is the possibility, and he proves many times by the stick turning to the snake and the obvious miracles, to show something inanimate becomes slithering on the ground.
reality becoming morphed, not through witchcraft or enchantment or illusion, but by actual transformation of reality. So that is very Twilight Zone-y. But he's insisting that the resurrection of the dead is an actual resurrection of bodies that were here before. And yes, it totally cracks open nature. He proves that through verses in the tarot. So that seem to contradict it. So people have some grounds to even make the claim that maybe it's meant metaphorically. I always talk about zombies as if a zombie could wake up, that's a greater miracle than the dead. They're sort of more than dead. A zombie is like more than dead. And to see in Chassidus, it puts it in more specific terms, referring to the intellect is cold. The coldest of all things is the mind. So Chabad doesn't stop with mind. It starts with mind. It uses the mind to elicit a holy conduit for experience, which is in the emotions. Mind is cold, emotions are hot. Mix them together and you get a nice popcorn. So you we need a l'chaim with that. Okay, so I found that Rambam and I thought that was very illuminating because it insists that faith sometimes crack open mind completely. Okay, ice base. V'yuvan behektim ashkasim b'parshas shvua di mina azlinan. So he quotes this verse. We're going to understand all this very strange interpretation that first is talking about every person and then it says in the virtue of the righteous. We already gave away the answer, I think, that when you emulate the avos, which we're going to say is these tzurim, these mountaintops, when you emulate them, and through the way of the imahais, which is experiencing it, not just having it there in a treasure chest, but actually using it and being present there, that's the mothers. In that way, you're simply becoming the tzaddik within. Amech kulam tzaddikim, we're promised every single Jew is in their core a tzaddik. So I think what the Rebbe is suggesting here is that, yes, it's talking about the avos, but it's talking about your ability to be like the avos in the same way that they were committed to dveikus to Hashem. You can be too, and therefore, in that merit, in your merit, and through miracles blasting through the exile, taking us to redemption. Every Jew has that power, and every Jew is the tzaddik. So I think that's the way we're going to. It's just a matter of do it. That's in the middle of that cookie. So the Zohar says in this verse, the Zohar is a source for this definition of the head of mountains. That's referring to the avos. And the Zohar continues to explain that when it says from the hilltops I behold him, that's referring to the mothers. And when we say that redemption comes in the merit of the fathers, in Tzadikayas, that Targum says, in order to show the loving merit that the righteous have acquired, as it says in the Medrash on the verse, the voice of my beloved, here it comes. Here it comes. And this verse is referring to the way it's going to be in the times of the redemption. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani mistakel chulu, l'mi ani mistakel, l'veisei makdeshim. If I'm going to look at anything, I'm going to look at your holy fathers that you descend from. B'schus aveisam ani goylam, and in their merit I shall redeem you. L'kach siv medalag al harim. That's why the verse in Shir Shirim says, skipping over the mountains, ve'ein harim ela avais. That's referring to the fathers. The passage there with Kedama L'Klal is taken apart. So the source that this is coming from is this idea that even when someone has the ayin hara chas v'shalom on anybody, they draw on this power from having embodied the virtues of the fathers and mothers of the Jewish tradition, and they have the power to transform that into a blessing. That's quite a good power. You look inside and you say, wow, I'm trying to give them an ayin hara and they're perfectly authentic in that area. Halavai that he should have been, he asked his donkey. Ubigvais asherenu alin imahen. So the Targum says, when it says, I behold him from the hilltops, that's the mothers, bein hai sitra ubein hai sitra. From other side, you look at it, lo yachlin listalia. Ilis taltia. I'm not going to let you down on either side of the fence. That's my translation of it. Ki'im hafchei, but it's going to actually transform that ayin hara, the opposite of blessings, inin habracha davka, in transforming it specifically into a blessing. The evil cannot harm an authentic Jew. They can't touch that. As it's explained in Bilam's continuation of, so he says, I see him from the mountaintops, I behold him from the hilltops. We said that's talking about the Aves. And it goes on to tie this into the idea of transforming negativity into a source of blessing. Until the end, we come to the climax when a shooting star comes out of Jacob. The Kam Shevet Yisrael, and a scepter comes out of Israel. The Yisrael Eisachayil, and they make a stance of valor, of might. Dekayil Bias Mashiach, which is referring to the coming of Mashiach, as it says in the Gemara Yushalmi, Tainus. Ukafi Shemasayim Gam B'Zayhar, and as it concludes there in the Zayar, on this verse, being in Bias Mashiach, also ties it in to Mashiach, as we'll learn about in chapter 8, which I did with you. The birth of Mashiach that comes from Bina. And that's how you crystallize victory as opposed to just being a good spiritual platonic idea. Okay, so I think we did it enough for this morning on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Have a blessed day, a blessed month.